Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we dig into complex sources to pull out those surprising nuggets of knowledge for you. Basically, a shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we are diving into a real literary heavyweight, one that still feels incredibly relevant, Leo Tolstoy's Resurrection. And this isn't just some dusty classic. It has a fascinating backstory. Tolstoy himself completely rewrote it, and he dedicated all the proceeds to helping the Doukhobors, a group facing persecution in the Caucasus because, well, they refused to engage in war.
Yeah, think about that for a second. A novel actually funding a real-world humanitarian effort. It's
Yeah.
quite amazing. The story itself is based on something that actually happened, and it directly impacted the lives of about 7,300 Doukhobors who ended up settling in Canada. Helped those exiled to Siberia, too. Even the translator gave their earnings to the same cause.
Wow.
And what's really compelling, I think, is how this book goes way beyond its historical context. It's such a profound look at individual conscience, grappling with these rigid, often unjust systems. Tolstoy really makes us question these deeply ingrained assumptions we have about justice, about morality, even our own part in the world around us.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to peel back the layers of this powerful story, trace the really profound transformation of its main characters, and ultimately figure out what resurrection can illuminate for us when we're navigating difficult choices or, dealing with complex societal structures. So let's start this deep dive and uncover its insights. Okay, picture this. You're serving on a jury, doing your civic duty, maybe a bit tedious. Then you look over at the person accused and your whole world just shifts.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens to Prince Dmitry Nekhludoff.
It really is a jarring moment. Nekhludoff, he's a nobleman sitting there as a juryman, and suddenly he's confronted by Katerina Maslova. She's on trial for theft and murder. But the thing is, she's not just any prisoner. She's a ghost from his past.
Yeah.
And it forces this critical question, right? What happens when your history, especially history loaded with guilt, just slams right into your present reality?
And this is where Tolstoy really grabs you. Maslova, or Katusha, as Nekhludoff knew her, she was once this innocent, pure young woman, an orphan taken in by his aunts. And she was Nekhludoff's youthful love interest. We even get these glimpses of their innocent affection.
That first kiss by the lilac bushes.
Yeah, where she says, "You've done it." And then the sadness he felt leaving her, sensing he was abandoning something beautiful, precious, something which would never reoccur. It's quite poignant.
And if you look at his character arc, that first departure from Katusha, it really marks a turning point for him, a kind of moral decline. He actually describes it as ceasing to trust himself, starting to believe others instead, always letting his animal eye win over his spiritual self. And ironically, his mother and aunts called him notre cher philosophe, our dear philosopher, when he talked about serious stuff, but they admired him more when he's gambling or chasing women.
Right, the hypocrisy.
Exactly. He even tried to act on his ideals once, gave an inherited estate to peasants because he thought private land ownership was wrong, but then he was just ridiculed when they, squandered it.
Yeah.
So this sets the stage for what he later calls his chronic mania of selfishness.
So fast forward 10 years, he's in the courtroom and he sees her. And despite the changes, the developed figure, the fullness of the bosom, swollen eyes, he knows it's undeniably Katusha. The shock hits him, physically. But his first thought, almost instinctive, is just self-preservation. Oh dear, if they would only get on quicker.
Like a puppy having its nose rubbed in its mess, as Tolstoy puts it. He just wants to avoid it. But that initial gut-wrenching recognition, that's the catalyst. That's what starts his moral awakening.
Yeah.
It forces him to confront his past actions directly. Specifically, how he seduced Katusha and then abandoned her, just leaving her without a 100-ruble note.
Right.
An act, he says, burned his conscience, made him feel like a scoundrel.
Yeah.
This raw encounter just yanks him right out of his complacent, superficial life.
Okay, let's step into the courtroom itself. Tolstoy paints this scene with, a satirical, almost farcical brush, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. The judges are hardly ideal examples of justice. The president, for instance, seems way more preoccupied with his exercise routine and planning a rendezvous with little red-haired Clara Vasilyevna.
Right. Not exactly focused on the trial.
Not at all. And then you have the public prosecutor, Breve. He's ambitious, a careerist, always ready to nail a conviction to climb the ladder.
It really makes you wonder, what does this kind of self-interest and distraction mean for the whole idea of justice?
Exactly. And you see the jury, Nekhludoff included, taking this oath to tell the truth, but some are doing it unwillingly and carelessly. And that whole scene with the priest laboriously guiding their hand gestures, insisting on perfect formality.
Yeah, that felt awkward.
It just highlights how this performative show of seriousness can completely mask a deeper lack of it. It's all about appearances.
So the trial moves forward. The three accused, Simeon Kartinkin, Euphemia Botchkova, and Katerina Maslova. They're charged with stealing money, a ring, and poisoning this merchant, Smelkov. Kartinkin's just belligerent. Botchkova blames Maslova for everything.
But Maslova admits giving the powder. She genuinely thought they were just sleeping powders, never intended any harm.
Right.
But what's truly revealing, I think, is the public prosecutor's big speech. His summation, he gives this long, kind of bombastic performance, throwing in all the scientific wisdom of the time.
Oh, yeah, like laws of heredity, inborn criminality.
Evolution, struggle for existence, even hypnotism and hypnotic influence. He paints the merchant Smelkov as this genuine Russian type, a total victim. Then he calls Kartinkin an atavistic production of serfdom, and Euphemia a victim of heredity. It's all very deterministic.
And he saves the worst for Maslova.
Absolutely. Calls her the chief wire puller, the phenomenon of decadence in its lowest form. He blames her education, her supposed mysterious capacity to influence men. It's really quite a piece of manipulation, twisting everything.
And the defense attorney for the other two paid 300 rubles.
Just throws Maslova under the bus completely, puts all the blame on her, even suggests she lost the money herself because she was not in a normal state.
Unbelievable. It just shows how self-interest totally perverts the search for truth there.
And the absurdity just keeps going with the summing up. The president, in a pleasant, homely manner, explains these obvious truisms like burglary was burglary and theft was theft.
It's as if they didn't know.
Exactly. And that poisoning could therefore also be termed murder. But crucially, he leaves out a key legal point.
The intent, right.
Yes, the option of declaring guilt without the intent of taking life. He just omits it.
So what does this mean for you, the listener, following along?
Well, the jury deliberates. They're tired. They want to get it over with. The kindly merchant actually suggests mercy for Maslova, but others argue they do agree she's not guilty of stealing the money and that the ring was given her. But because the president left out that crucial nuance about intent, their verdict on the poisoning, which was, yes, guilty, but without the intent to take life, gets recorded simply as guilty. And the result is this gross miscarriage of justice. Penal servitude in Siberia for Maslova, who, as we know, was positively innocent of any intent to murder. Even the judge himself admits the decision is absurd. Tolstoy isn't just showing a mistake here. He's revealing something chilling about the system itself.
Yeah.
When the machinery of justice cares more about procedure, about its own convenience than about human truth, it inevitably crushes innocent people. It's designed to process, not necessarily to find justice.
So this verdict just shatters Nekhludoff. It triggers what Tolstoy calls a cleansing of the soul, a painful but also joyful recognition of his own baseness. His guilt pushes him to atone. He decides, I have to tell Katusha everything, ask her to forgive me, and if need be, I shall marry her. It's a huge shift for him.
A monumental decision. But this commitment immediately slams into the harsh reality of the prison system. Maslova, she's just crushed by the unexpectedly severe sentence. She's in despair, only longing for tobacco and strong drink.
Just numb, basically.
Yeah, disbelief, indignation, then horror at this cruel and surprising injustice from the same men who, had previously looked at her with approval or desire.
So when Nekhludoff first visits her, he hits this wall of resistance. He's horrified because he realizes Katusha existed no more, and there was Maslova in her place. She's not ashamed of being a prostitute. She's almost proud of it, sees it as a valid profession in her world now. She tells him straight up, there's nothing to redeem. What's been has been and is past.
Yeah, she completely rejects his framework.
And when he offers her money, she's practical, tells him to hide it from the inspector because he'd take it away. She sees his attempts to save her through her own lens, not his.
Her refusal to be his idealized Katusha or to just accept his sacrifice is so revealing, isn't it? It shows how people adapt. They construct a view of life where their current situation, even prostitution, seems important and good. Because the alternative, losing that meaning, is too devastating. Those buried memories of the pure love they shared, just too painful for her to dig up.
But Nekhludoff doesn't give up. He persists. He goes to see the vice governor, Maslova, who is actually an old colleague from his regiment.
Oh, right.
And Maslova proudly shows off the supposed order of the prison while admitting there's insubordination and mutiny. His philosophy is basically solicitude on one hand, firmness and power on the other.
A classic bureaucratic justification.
Exactly. And this encounter helps Nekhludoff see that the system is deeply flawed. It needs more than just his money or, a marriage proposal.
And then his understanding deepens even more when he meets Vera Doukhobor.
The revolutionary.
Yeah, the schoolteacher turned revolutionary, imprisoned for propaganda. Tolstoy calls her an altruistic, fine character, and she gives him practical advice on helping Maslova getting her moved to the political prisoners ward or the hospital. This highlights the huge difference in treatment.
Right, political versus criminal prisoners.
It shows Nekhludoff that the injustice isn't just about Maslova's individual case, it's systemic. Even within the prison walls, there are different levels of disregard and sometimes dignity.
So Nekhludoff's journey then takes him to Petersburg. He's appealing Maslova's case in the Senate, which pushes him deeper into the heart of the Russian bureaucratic machine.
Right into the belly of the beast.
In Petersburg, he's confronting the judicial and social elite at the highest levels. He meets all these different officials, materialists scoffing at morality, others just obsessed with legal form over human suffering.
Yeah, each meeting just seems to reinforce his growing horror at how detached power can become from actual compassion. They're discussing her life-altering case over tea and cigarettes. Casually. It shows how the system, even at the top, can be so impersonal, driven by political convenience or just personal prejudice, not a pure search for justice.
And he also has to navigate Petersburg society itself. He
Yeah.
goes to these dinner parties, like with the Korchagins, and he feels like everything in the house was repulsive.
He sees right through it now.
Yeah, Missy's artificiality, old Korchagins, sensual, self-satisfied, bull-like appearance. He even remembers Korchagin's cruelty as a military commander, having men flogged, even hanged. Then he visits his aunt Katerina Ivanovna. She's a socialite, outwardly religious, but totally pitiless towards nihilists, especially short-haired women nihilists.
The specific prejudice is telling.
Right. She thinks his compassion for peasants and prisoners is foolish, but she still agrees to help him. It just screams hypocrisy.
These encounters really lay bare the moral decay and the sheer superficiality of that elite class. Living in luxury, completely indifferent to the suffering caused by the systems they benefit from. Nekhludoff's changing moral compass just makes him increasingly sickened by his old life. He's questioning the very basis of his privilege.
And beyond the corrupt state and the hypocritical society, he also confronts the state church, embodied by this character, Toporov. What's Tolstoy showing us there about institutions?
Well, Toporov believes his duty is to defend that church which was established by God himself, even if it takes violence. He actually says, quite cynically, that people liked being kept in superstition. Compares it to feeding chickens carrion, disgusting, but it's what they like.
Wow, so detached.
Utterly. It shows how even institutions founded on spiritual principles can lose their way entirely, prioritizing control and the status quo over actual human well-being.
So then Nekhludoff turns his attention to his inherited land. He's trying to act on his belief that private land ownership is wrong. He offers to rent land to the peasants in Kuzminsky at a much lower price, but they're actually not satisfied. They expected more, maybe the land outright.
Right, it's not as simple as he thought.
No. In another village, same resistance. He realizes he's deprived himself of a great deal and yet not done what the peasants had expected. He sees their terrible poverty, the high child mortality, the overworked women, and understands the root cause is the land taken by landlords.
It raises that crucial question again, doesn't it? Can one person's moral change really fix these huge, entrenched societal problems? Or do you need systemic change? Tolstoy seems to lean toward the latter here.
And this journey continues as he actually accompanies a convoy of prisoners heading to Siberia. The sight is just grim. Shaved heads, chains, people treated like wild beasts.
Hard to even imagine.
He observes how prison brutalizes everyone involved, prisoners and jailers, turns them into a state where any outrage or violence was justifiable if it seemed profitable.
Yeah.
And he concludes that cannibalism did not commence in the marshes, but in the ministry, meaning the real root of the degradation isn't just bad people, it's the bureaucratic indifference, the corruption in the institutions themselves.
And what becomes so starkly clear to Nekhludoff here and to you as the reader is his realization that the system itself, driven by money and self-interest, forces people to act without love or sympathy. He argues that natural love is the fundamental law of human life. Without it, you cannot deal with man usefully. Tolstoy is making such a powerful case that this lack of love isn't just a personal failing, it's like a societal disease.
But amidst all this bleakness, as Nekhludoff travels with the convoy, we do start to see these crucial glimpses of humanity, especially around Maslova. Inside the women's prison cell, she's navigating this really tough environment, quarrels, fighting for basics, constant abuse. But even with her hardened exterior, we see her generosity. She's always ready to share anything she possessed.
Yeah, that core of decency is still there. And her situation really improves when she gets moved to join the political prisoners. Better conditions, better food, treated less rudely. And crucially, she's no longer molested by the men. She can finally avoid those constant painful reminders of her past.
And this newfound safety, this respect, it allows for a really remarkable transformation, doesn't it? Largely thanks to two political prisoners, Mary Pavlovna and Simonson.
Right. Mary Pavlovna, she's this selfless, kind woman, even gives up her cart spot for a pregnant criminal prisoner. Initially, Tolstoy writes, she felt repulsed and disgusted by Maslova's past, but through conscious effort and compassion, she becomes really tender towards her.
And that devoted love, as Tolstoy calls it, from Katusha, it touches Mary Pavlovna back. They form this bond based on mutual respect, and interestingly, a shared repulsion to sexual love.
It's a fascinating dynamic, a kind of healing through non-romantic, compassionate connection.
And then there's Simonson. He's also on his way to exile in Yakutsk. He influences Maslova through his unique platonic love for her.
Yeah, he has this unusual religious teaching that everything in the world was alive.
Yeah.
And he sees certain people like himself and Mary Pavlovna as phagocytes, basically, helpers or nourishers in the human organism meant to aid the weak.
That's quite a concept.
It is, but it gives Maslova a new framework, a way to find meaning in her own suffering and in service to others, even in those terrible conditions. It provides a kind of philosophical underpinning for her growing selflessness.
And we also meet other political prisoners, showing the whole spectrum of motivations for challenging the system. There's Kryltsov.
A consumptive, highly intelligent young man, radicalized by the injustices he saw.
Yeah, part of the Narodovoltsy Party, that group of Russian revolutionary populists and leader of a disorganizing group aiming to terrorize the government. Even though he's dying, he says he'd do it all again.
His commitment is fierce. But it raises that question about motivations, right? Some, like Kryltsov, seem driven by this honest, passionate sense of duty. But then you have others, like Novodvorov, the celebrated revolutionist, Nekhludoff really dislikes. He seems driven more by ambition and the desire for supremacy.
Right. Tolstoy describes him as morally below the average, despising women, contemptuous of Nekhludoff playing the fool with Maslova.
Exactly. Whereas Nabokov, the peasant and communist, seems genuinely committed to enlightening and uniting the working men. Tolstoy shows us the full range, even among revolutionaries.
And in Maslova's growth among these people, these intellectual and morally driven individuals, it's really striking. When someone asks her opinion on revolution, she doesn't spout theories.
No grand pronouncements.
She just says simply, I think the common people are wronged. They are dreadfully wronged. And that direct, heartfelt statement just cuts through everything. It resonates deeply with Nabokov's practical focus on solidarity. So finally, after all Nekhludoff's relentless efforts pushing through the bureaucracy, Maslova's sentence is actually commuted.
A moment of success, finally.
Yeah, he gets this letter from Selenin, an official involved earlier, who admits Nekhludoff was right concerning Maslova and that a shocking injustice had been done.
That official acknowledgement, however small, it really underscores the impact of Nekhludoff's persistence, doesn't it? Even when he doubted himself. It's a testament to individual perseverance against that massive state inertia.
And then in the final act of our deep dive here, Nekhludoff has this profound revelation while he's traveling. He's thinking about all the officials he met, the inspector, the convoy guards.
All those kind people, right?
Exactly. Kind people. Cool only because they are serving. He realizes they're impermeable to the feelings of humanity because they're inured against pity as these stones are against vegetation. He uses this image of a paved railway embankment where water just runs off instead of nourishing the earth. That's how the system prevents human connection, prevents compassion.
And this is really the core of Tolstoy's critique of institutionalized cruelty. He argues that the most horrific crimes aren't committed by monsters, but by ordinary Christian, humane, simple, kind people. When they become convinced that there's this thing called government service that allows them to treat other humans like objects without any sense of brotherly connection.
It's a chilling thought.
It is. He asserts that natural love is the fundamental law of human life, and there are no circumstances where you can deal with people without love. And if you don't feel love, he says, essentially, sit still, occupy yourself with things, only not with men. It's a radical call for radical empathy.
He finds a strange kind of confirmation from this old man he meets on a raft. The old man declares, I have no kind of faith because I believe no one but myself.
That radical self-reliance, trusting only his own inner truth, it echoes Nekhludoff's own long, difficult journey back to his authentic self.
And then comes the ultimate aha moment, the real epiphany for Nekhludoff. He's reading the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18.
Right, the passage about becoming like little children to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Exactly. But whoso shall cause one of these little ones to stumble, it is more profitable for him that a great millstone should be hanged about his neck, and that he should be sunk in the depths of the sea.
Powerful words.
And Nekhludoff realizes this is the answer to everything. The only way out of suffering is to first acknowledge yourself as sinning against God, against love, and therefore realizing you're in no position to punish or correct others.
So, true change, Tolstoy is suggesting, it doesn't start with reforming the external systems, though that's needed. It starts with this profound internal transformation, with humility, with recognizing our shared flawed humanity.
Wow. What an impactful journey we've taken through Tolstoy's resurrection, Nekhludoff's transformation. It's really something. From this morally compromised nobleman to a man driven by this deep compassion.
Yeah.
His personal guilt really became this powerful mirror, reflecting all the systemic injustices in society.
And Maslova's story, too, her resilience, her eventual opening to kindness, despite everything she went through. It's such a potent counterpoint to all those dehumanizing sources. It shows that even in the most brutal settings, the human spirit can somehow find a way to connect and maybe even heal.
So this deep dive really leaves us with a profound question to think about, doesn't it? In a world that's so full of systems, rules, official duties, how do we make sure we never lose sight of that fundamental law of human life, love, and compassion? How do we resist that insidious temptation to treat other people as just things? It's a question that goes way beyond the book, right?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thought for you to carry forward from this.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking out those surprising nuggets of knowledge and let them spark new insights in your own understanding of the world.